Thou seest many stars at night in the sky, but findest them not when the sun rises. Canst thou say that there are no stars then in the heaven of day? So, O man, because thou beholdest not the Almighty in the days of thy ignorance, say not that there is no God. As one and the same material, viz., water, is called by different names by different people, one calling it water, another vari, a third aqua, and another pani. So the one, Sat Chit Ananda, the everlasting intelligent bliss, is invoked by some as God, by some as Allah, by some as Hari, and by others as Brahman. Many are the names of God, and infinite the forms that lead us to know Him. In whatsoever name or form you desire to call Him, in that very form and name you will see Him. As the same sugar is made into various figures of birds and beasts, so one sweet Mother Divine is worshipped in various climes and ages, under various names and forms. Different creeds are but different paths to reach the Almighty. As with one gold various ornaments are made, having different forms and names, so one God is worshipped in different countries and ages, and has different forms and names. God is one, but His aspects are different. As one master of the house is father to one, brother to another, and husband to a third, and is called by these different names by those different persons, so one God is described and called in various ways according to the particular aspect in which He appears to His particular worshipper. In a potter's shop there are vessels of different shapes and forms, pots, jars, dishes, plates, etc., but all are made of one clay. So God is one, but is worshipped in different ages and climes under different names and aspects. Man is like a pillowcase. The color of one may be red, another blue, another black, but all contain the same cotton. So it is with man. One is beautiful, one is black, another is holy, a fourth wicked, but the divine dwells in them all. It is true that God is even in the tiger, but we must not go and face the animal. So it is true that God dwells even in the most wicked, but it is not meant that we should associate with the wicked. As one kind of water may be used for washing our feet, another may serve the purpose of ablution, and others may be drunk, and others again may not be touched at all. So there are different kinds of places. We may approach some, we can enter into the inside of others. Others we must avoid, even at a distance. Put the pot with its ingredients on the fire. It will be so hot as to burn your finger when you touch it. But the heat does not belong to the pot, nor anything contained in it, but is in the fire. So it is the fire of Brahman in man that causes the mind and the senses to perform their functions, and when that fire ceases to act, the senses also or the organs stop. God tells the thief to go and steal, and at the same time warns the householder against the thief. As fishes playing in a pond covered with reeds and scum cannot be seen from outside, so God plays in the heart of a man, invisibly, being screened by Maya from human view. As a boy begins to learn writing by drawing big scrawls before he can master the small hand, so must we learn concentration of the mind by fixing it first on forms, and when we have attained success therein, we can easily fix it upon the formless. God is formless, and is with form too, and He is that which transcends both form and formlessness. He alone can say what else He is. As water when congealed becomes ice, so the visible form of the Almighty is the materialized manifestation of the all-pervading, formless Brahman. As the ice, being part and parcel of the water, remains in the water for a time and afterwards melts in it, so the personal God is part and parcel of the impersonal. He rises from the impersonal, remains there, and ultimately merges into it and disappears. Knowingly or unknowingly, consciously or unconsciously, in whatever state we utter His name, we acquire the merit of such utterance. A man who voluntarily goes into a river and bathes therein gets the benefit of the bath. So does, likewise, he who has been pushed into the river by another, or who, while sleeping, soundly has water thrown upon him by another. It is one and the same avatara that, having plunged into the ocean of life, rises up in one place and is known as Krishna, diving again, rises in another place, and is known as Christ. A Siddha Purusha, perfect one, is like an archaeologist who removes the dust and lays open an old well which was covered up during ages of disuse by rank growth. The avatara, on the other hand, is like a great engineer who sinks a new well in a place where there was no water before. Once a holy man, while passing through a crowded street, accidentally trod upon the toe of a wicked person. The wicked man, furious with rage, beat the sadhu mercilessly till he fell to the ground in a faint. His disciples took great pains and adopted various measures to bring him back to consciousness, and when they saw that he had recovered a little, one of them asked, "Sir, do you recognize who is attending upon you?" The sadhu replied, "He who beat me." A true sadhu finds no distinction between a friend and a foe. The wind carries the smell of the sandalwood as well as that of the ordure, but does not mix with it either. Similarly, a perfect man lives in the world, but does not mix with it. As an aquatic bird, such as a pelican, dives into the water, but the water does not wet its plumage, so the perfect man lives in the world, but the world does not touch him. The steel sword turns into a golden sword by the touch of the philosopher's stone, and though it retains its former form, it becomes incapable of injuring anyone. Similarly, the outward form of a man who has touched the feet of the Almighty is not changed, but he no longer doeth any evil. The lodestone rock under the sea attracts the ships sailing over it, draws out all its iron nails, separates its planks, and sinks the vessel into the deep. Thus, when the human soul is attracted by the magnetism of universal consciousness, the latter destroys in a moment all its individuality and selfishness, and plunges it in the ocean of God's infinite love. So long as a man calls aloud, Allah ho! Allah ho! O God, be sure that he has not found God, for he who has found him becomes still. So long as the bee is outside the petals of the lotus and has not tasted its honey, it hovers round the flower, emitting its buzzing sound. But when it is inside the flower, it drinks its nectar noiselessly. So long as a man quarrels and disputes about doctrines and dogmas, he has not tasted the nectar of true faith. When he has tasted it, he becomes still. He who has once tasted the refined and crystalline sugar candy finds no pleasure in raw treacle. He who has slept in a palace will find no pleasure in lying down in a dirty hovel. So the soul that has once tasted the sweetness of the divine bliss finds no delight in the ignoble pleasures of the world. She who has a king for her lover will not accept the homage of a street beggar. So the soul that has once found favor in the sight of the Lord does not want the paltry things of this world. When water is poured into an empty vessel, a bubbling noise ensues. But when the vessel is full, no such noise is heard. Similarly, the man who has not found God is full of vain disputations. But when he has seen him, all vanities disappear, and he silently enjoys the bliss divine. A woman naturally feels shy to relate all the talk she daily has with her husband, save to her own companions. Similarly, a devotee does not like to relate to anyone but a true bhakta, devotee, the ecstatic joys which he experiences in his divine communion. Nay, sometimes he becomes impatient of relating his experiences even to those of his own class. Why does the God-lover find such pleasure in addressing the deity as mother? Because the child is more free with its mother, and consequently she is dearer to the child than anyone else. The pious man, like a hemp smoker, finds no pleasure in singing the praises of the Almighty alone. The hemp smoker never finds pleasure in smoking alone. The stone may remain for myriads of years in water, and the water will never penetrate it. But clay is soon softened into mud by the contact of water. So the strong heart of the faithful does not despair in the midst of trials and persecutions, but the man of weak faith is easily shaken even by the most trifling cause. God is like unto a hill of sugar. A small ant carries away from it a small grain of sugar. The bigger ant takes from it a larger grain, but the hill remains as large as before. So are the devotees of God. They become ecstatic with even a grain of one divine attribute. No one can contain within him all his attributes. A logician once asked Sri Ramakrishna, "What are knowledge, knower, and the object known?" To which he replied, "Good man, I do not know all these niceties of scholastic learning. I know only my mother divine, and that I am her son." A man who finds all the hairs of his body standing on end at the bare mention of Sri Hari's name through sheer ecstasy, and who sheds tears of love on hearing the name of God, he has reached his last birth. The more you scratch the ringworm, the greater grows the itching, and the more pleasure do you find in scratching. Similarly, the devotees, once beginning to sing his praises, never get tired of it, but continue for hours and hours together. A true devotee who has drunk deep of the divine love is like a veritable drunkard, and as such cannot always observe the rules of propriety. The sage alone can recognize a sage. He who deals in cotton twists can alone tell of what number and quality a particular twist is made. The true religious man is he who does not do anything wrong or act impiously when he is alone, i.e., when there is none to look after and blame him. In the Bengali alphabet, no three letters are alike in sound except the three sibilants, sa, sha, and sa, all meaning forbear, forbear, forbear. This shows that even from our childhood we are made to learn forbearance in our very alphabets. The quality of forbearance is of the highest importance to every man. Sugar and sand may be mixed together, but the ant rejects the sand and goes off with the sugar grain. So pious men sift the good from the bad. This world is like a stage, where men perform many parts under different disguises. They do not like to take off the mask, unless they have played for some time. Let them play for a while, and then they will leave off the mask of their own accord. Keep thine own sentiments and faith to thyself. Do not talk about them abroad. Otherwise thou wilt be a great loser. The vulture soars high up in the air, but all the while he is looking down into the charnel pits in search of putrid carcasses. So the book-read pandits speak glibly and volubly about divine knowledge, but it is all mere talk, for all the while their mind is thinking about how to get money, respect, honor, power, etc., the vain guerdon of their learning. As when going to a strange country, one must abide by the directions of him who knows the way, while taking the advice of many may lead to confusion. So in trying to reach God, one should follow implicitly the advice of one single guru who knows the way to God. The guru should be only one, but upagurus, assistant gurus, may be many. He from whom anything whatsoever is learned is an upaguru. The great Avadhuta had 20 such gurus. Take the pearl and throw the oyster shell away. Follow the mantra, advice, given thee by thy guru, and throw out of consideration the human frailties of thy teacher. The leaves of the cocoa palm fall off, but leave still their marks behind on the trunk. Similarly, so long as one has this body, there will remain the mark of egoism. How high soever a man may advance in spirituality, but these traces of egoism do not bind such men to the world, nor cause their rebirth. The sun can give heat and light the whole world, but it can do nothing when the clouds are in the sky and shut out its rays. Similarly, so long as egoism is in the soul, God cannot shine upon the heart. Of all the birds of the air, the crow is considered to be the wisest. and he thinks himself so too. He never falls into a snare. He flies off at the slightest approach of danger and steals the food with the greatest dexterity. But all this wisdom can supply him with no better living than filth and foul matter. This is the result of his having the wisdom of the pettifogger. A true lover sees his God as his nearest and dearest relative, just as the shepherd women of Vrindavana saw in Sri Krishna not the Lord of the universe, Gaganatha, but their own beloved Gopinatha. A lover and a knower of God were once passing through a forest. On their way they saw a tiger at a distance. The young'un, or knower of God, said, "There is no reason why we should flee. The Almighty God will certainly protect us." At this the lover said, "No, brother. Come, let us run away. Why should we trouble the Lord for what can be accomplished by our own exertions?" The knowledge of God may be likened to a man, while the love of God is like a woman. Knowledge has entry only up to the outer rooms of God, but no one can enter into the inner mysteries of God save a lover, for a woman has access even into the harem of the Almighty. Knowledge and love of God are ultimately one and the same. There is no difference between pure knowledge and pure love. The newborn calf falls and tumbles down scores of times before it learns to stand steady. So, in the path of devotion, the slips are many before success is achieved. Some get tipsy with even a small glass of wine. Others require 2 or 3 bottles to make them intoxicated, but both get equal and full pleasure of intoxication. Similarly, some devotees get intoxicated with celestial bliss by coming in direct contact with the Lord of the universe, while others become full of ecstasy even by a glimpse of the divine glory. But both are equally fortunate, since both are deluged with divine bliss. The snake is very venomous. It bites when anyone approaches to catch it. But the person who has learnt the snake charm can not only catch a snake, but carries about several of them like so many ornaments. Similarly, he who has acquired spiritual knowledge can never be polluted by lust and greed. Samadhi is the state of bliss which is experienced by a live fish, which being kept out of water for some time, is again put into it. There are hills and mountains, dales and valleys under the sea, but they are not visible from the surface. So, in the state of Samadhi, when one floats upon the ocean of Sat Chitananda, all human consciousness lies latent in him. He who at the time of contemplation is entirely unconscious of everything outside has acquired the perfection of contemplation. Shallow water in an open field will in time be dried up, though no one may lessen it by using it. So a sinner is sometimes purified by simply resigning himself totally and absolutely to the mercy and grace of God. A policeman can see with a dark lantern, bullseye, everyone upon whom he throws the rays. But no one can see him so long as he does not turn the light towards himself. So does God see everyone, but no one seeth him, until the Lord revealeth himself to him in his mercy. The breeze of His grace is blowing night and day over thy head. Unfurl the sails of thy boat, mind, if thou wantest to make rapid progress through the ocean of life. Fans should be discarded when the wind blows. Prayers and penances should be discarded when the grace of God descends. Creeds and sects matter nothing. Let every one perform with faith the devotions and practices of his creed. Faith is the only clue to get to God. Out of the myriads of paper kites that are made to fly in the air, only one or two rend the string and get free. So out of hundreds of sadakas, only one or two get free from worldly bonds. As a piece of lead thrown into a basin of mercury is soon dissolved therein, so the human soul loses its individual existence when it falls into the ocean of Brahma. Instead of preaching to others, if one worships God all that time, that is enough preaching. He who strives to make himself free is the real preacher. Hundreds come from all sides, no one knows whence, to him who is free, and are taught. When a flower opens, the bees come from all sides, uninvited and unasked. No man keeps a total fast. Some get food at 9 a.m., others at noon, others at 2 p.m., and others in the evening. Similarly, at some time or other in this life or after many lives, all will see God. When I look upon chaste women of respectable families, I see in them the Mother Divine arrayed in the garb of a chaste lady. And again, when I look upon the public women of the city, sitting in their open verandas, arrayed in the garb of immorality and shamelessness, I see in them, also, the Mother Divine sporting in a different way. The light of the gas illumines various localities with various intensities, but the life of the light, namely the gas, comes from one common reservoir. So the religious teachers of all climes and ages are but as many lampposts through which is emitted the light of the Spirit flowing constantly from one source, the Lord Almighty. As the rainwater from the top of a house may be discharged through pipes having their mouthpieces shaped like the head of a tiger, a cow, or a bull, etc., although the water does not belong to these pipes, but comes from the heaven above, so are the holy sadhus, saints, through whose mouths eternal and heavenly truths are discharged into this world by the Almighty. The waters of a swiftly flowing current move round in eddies and whirlpools, but quickly crossing these they resume their former course. So the hearts of the pious fall sometimes into the whirlpools of despondency, grief, and unbelief. But it is only a momentary aberration. It does not last long. The heavier scale goes down and the lighter one rises up. So the man of merit and ability is always humble, but the fool is always puffed up with vanity. If a white cloth is stained with a small speck, the blackness appears very ugly indeed by the contrast. So the smallest fault of a holy man becomes painfully prominent by his surrounding purity. So long as one does not become simple like a child. One does not get divine illumination. Forget all the worldly knowledge that thou hast acquired and become as ignorant about it as a child, and then thou wilt get the knowledge of the true. Be not like the frog in the well. The frog in the well knows nothing bigger and grander than its well. So are all bigots. They do not see anything better than their own creeds. As the young wife in a family shows her love and respect to her father-in-law, mother-in-law, and every other member of the family, and at the same time loves her husband more than these, similarly, being firm in thy devotion to the deity of thy own choice, Ishtadevata, do not despise other deities, but honor them all. The difference between the modern Brahmaism and Hinduism is like the difference between the single note of music and the whole music. The modern Brahmas are content with the single note of Brahman, while the Hindu religion is made up of several notes, producing a sweet and melodious harmony. Visit not miracle workers. They are wanderers from the path of truth. Their minds have become entangled in the meshes of psychic powers which lie in the way of the pilgrim towards Brahman as temptations. Beware of these powers, and desire them not. A man, after 14 years of hard asceticism, in a lonely forest obtained at last the power of walking over the waters. Overjoyed at this acquisition, he went to his guru and told him of his grand feat. At this the master replied, "My poor boy, what thou hast accomplished after 14 years' arduous labor, ordinary men do the same by paying a penny to the boatman." As on the troubled surface of rolling waters the moon shines in broken images, so on the unsettled mind of a worldly man engrossed in Maya, the perfect God shines with partial light only. As one can ascend to the top of a house by means of a ladder, or a bamboo, or a staircase, or a rope, so diverse also are the ways and means to approach God, and every religion in the world shows one of these ways. Dispute not as you rest firmly on your own faith. Allow others also the same liberty to stand by their own faiths. By mere disputation you shall never succeed in convincing another of his error. When the grace of God descends on him, everyone will understand his own mistakes. The Advahuta saw a bridal procession passing through a meadow, with a beating of drums and the blowing of trumpets, and with great pomp. Hard by the road through which the procession was passing, he saw a hunter deeply absorbed in aiming at a bird, and perfectly inattentive to the noise and pomp of the procession, casting not even a passing look at it. The Advahuta, saluting the hunter, said, "Sir, you are my guru. When I sit in meditation, let my mind be concentrated on its object of meditation, as yours has been on the bird." If thou wishest to thread the needle, make the thread pointed, and remove all extraneous fibers. Then the thread will easily enter into the eye of the needle. So, if thou wishest to concentrate thy heart on God, be meek, humble, and poor in spirit, and remove all filaments of desire. When the tail of the tadpole drops off, it can live both in water and on land. when the tail of ignorance drops off, man becomes free. He can then live both in God and in the world equally well.